And my next example, which happens to be a wonderful contrast to the Abramson Jewish Center. It's actually a dissertation paper I found by doing some of the research on Lawton's theories and actions, you might say. And this paper was by a Master of Fine Arts student at Texas Tech University. His name was Assem Obedat, and the name of his dissertation is Designing Alzheimer's Special Care Facilities that includes consideration for the Islamic culture. How about that? So that's always important. I'm drawn to the kind of the cultural contrast just because that's something that just picks up my attention. My wife, of course, too, is from Peru, so I always kind of keep an eye out for how certain theories or certain things are happening in different cultures. So this was a great contrast, of course, as we know, a history of Middle Eastern conflicts. So, and what you're going to find is some very similar ideas that this young man, Assem, came up with. And so we'll go down a list of different ideas that he tried and tested, usually through focus groups and questionnaires. But he really took samples of 4 different cities in Texas with average to larger Muslim populations. And he wanted to get an idea what would be some great ideas to implement into a facility for Alzheimer's, Muslim Alzheimer's patients. The only tricky thing he got into is just the Muslim world is so great and huge that obviously it was a lot of the respondents were maybe from different Arabic countries, or maybe they were born actually in America, so there was obviously different experiences. But in general, he wanted to get an idea of some really good ideas. If such a center, and I don't believe there is such a center that exists today, but he saw the need, and he wanted to put. This is what he did his doctoral dissertation on. So, from a building's point of view, he talked about courtyards, very important, with the abundance of plants and water for calming effect as well. Plants that are native to Muslim geographical areas, might be olive trees or fig trees. It's usually in typical Muslim culture the center of the building, which for several reasons it can be an open area that it can be used for temperature control. It's kind of cool down when it's really warm, warm up, and conversely the other way. A peaceful kind of privacy area, and privacy you'll see over and over is a huge part of a Muslim tradition. And like I said, I might have said a gathering place. Many times, big families. The courtyard is a place to welcome everybody in almost like a semi-private area. Again, privacy is huge, and you'll see in typical Muslim culture, private kind of public spaces in the home, very private spaces, and sometimes kind of in between. And a courtyard would fit there. Flat. Shucks, no problem. Also flat roofs, mostly from the Middle East. This concept comes from, but again, it's gatherings, it's privacy, and similar to in Peru as well. You'll see many times houses are they're always in the process of kind of being built up. So the flat roof allows for future architectural endeavors or additions as funds come in over the years, as maybe a family gets bigger, maybe even to rent it out, or at least in Peru. We always see unfinished flat roofs that are on their way. Window coverings, that will go down more in ornament, but So let's say large interior spaces, again, for gatherings. And all these concepts, again, this Assem was trying and testing through his surveys and focus groups to get some ideas of things that might very well be pertinent to build into, like I said, a community, a facility for Muslim individuals with Alzheimer's, to have that familiarity, just like we talked about the Jewish Center, is this reminding you of homey kind of feeling. That's a great therapeutic tool when it comes to losing kind of your old self in many ways. He also broke down into ornamental types of additions that could be made. Window coverings called a moshav raveya. It's a decorative kind of wood cut. The way I picture it is kind of outside of the window, almost kind of finely cut decorative wood that blocks out the sunlight, allows you to see out, but you can't see in. Again, the privacy. Artwork-wise, as may or may not know, Arabic culture does not allow human and animal depictions. In Islamic tradition in general, they're not allowed as decorative elements. So Arabic calligraphy, pictures of landscapes, or even architectures like mosques are very big and very important to Islamic individuals. And again, creating that home-like environment, that familiar environment. Another interesting thing is floor seating. A big part of Islamic culture, sitting on the floor like a mattress that's covered with maybe ornamental rugs. And so these can be built out throughout the facility in the bedrooms, living rooms, dining rooms, even to eat as well. Huge one, just like the Jewish tradition emphasizes a synagogue within the facilities. Obviously, prayer spaces that most likely are going to be gender-based, male and female, different rooms for the 5 daily prayers. A private area, quiet area, and extremely important to the Islamic tradition. Also interesting in the bathroom, obviously you could have, we talk about toiletvators? Yeah, toiletvators or raised seats. But what was interesting in what he suggested was a bidet that it serves a dual purpose against just physical cleanliness, but also spiritual cleanliness before prayer, during certain, like Ramadan. Very important in the psyche to prepare oneself to worship Allah. So let's also talk about psychosocial, and there's some overall themes that we already mentioned, particularly for privacy. That's come up almost everyone, and obviously, especially for women who cover themselves and only take off or remove parts of their, I'm not sure what the garment is, but in privacy with other women. Another important thing was the ability to great acoustics within the facility. And so this goes along as well with prayer. Being able to hear that, as there's been studies done in Islamic culture, that hearing the specific tone, talawid is what they call it, the specific tone of the 5 daily prayers is calming, it's therapeutic, and so being able to soak that in within the facilities, it would be a very important suggestion as well. Music, this can kind of go either way from what from what I read in his dissertation. Kind of plain music, he said. Plain music was okay, that promotes thought and prayer, but anything that kind of certain lyrics or kind of up-tempo music that may promote dancing, would be looked bad upon. So no R. Kelly for those who. Sorry to let you down, but so it's very strict, obviously. And again, as far as food prep, no alcohol, no pork is against Islamic religion. Okay. Okay, so what we did today was we just talked a little bit about who Lawton was, where he came from, some of his influences, and then really the religion kind of came to be the theme here. And so we talk about culture a lot. What does that mean? It's really understanding the roots of different religions, and again, back to Alzheimer's care. Making that environment as less pressing, if you will, as possible, making things familiar, signage, of course, but as we talked about during the cognition segment of environment, signage is important, just making things clear. But again, how are you going to design that type of sign? What are we going to use? Just being aware of the sensitivities of different cultures, and allowing people to use their environment for therapeutic purposes. And you never know, maybe environmental design create peace in the world one of these days, especially in the Middle East. Thank you so much. Pleasure doing this, and have a good day. Bye now.